Hi, this is Ray Lago, and you're listening to the one and only Marvel Card Collectors Podcast.
Hello, everybody. My name is Ian Taylor, and welcome to the Marvel Card Collectors Podcast, brought to you by the Marvel Cards Fan Collective. You can find our two groups on Facebook, details of which are at the end of the podcast, so come check us out. With me is my co-pilot in all things Marvel cards, the bright pulsating star around which I orbit, Norrin Rad.
Hey everyone.
Love it. I love that I don't tell
That
you
was good.
what
I
I'm going
love
to do.
that.
Yeah,
That
I
was
kind of went off
nice.
piece this week.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah,
It's good.
I
I'm
like
into it.
I like it. Happy Friday. It's Friday today, the day that we're recording.
Friday.
Although we usually drop these on a Tuesday, but in the same way that it's always 5 p.m. somewhere in the world, it's also always 5 p.m. Oh, that makes no sense whatsoever.
No, I was going to say, is it Friday always somewhere?
It's Friday. No.
Maybe in some people's hearts. I mean, we can go that route.
Possibly.
Yeah.
For Robinson Crusoe, I think he wishes it was always Friday. Oh, well rescued. It's the end of a long week, people. So do forgive us if we're
a long week,
low energy,
especially in this group, because it's crazy. This was a crazy week.
Yeah, it was a crazy week. I'm going to kick off at the most pressing thing. So the day we record this, we are barely 24 hours past something that we set up a few months ago with Simone Bianchi. He who painted the Marvel Masterpieces 2018 set. Good evening, Simone. Hello, sir. And good evening, Gloria, as well, his sister.
They are so awesome.
Delightful.
Delightful. Yeah. Absolutely.
Is she, because it's kind of a family business, I'm guessing, is she kind of his manager in that regard? Or
I believe she's his sister, and I've spoken to her.
I know she's his sister. I just wasn't sure if she held the official role of manager or agent.
I mean, if not, she should. She does an excellent job. She was fantastic through the process of me buying the thumbnail preliminary art that I have.
Yeah.
From that set. She was great, and she's great. She was really wonderful. So yeah. I'm sure she is.
So I mean, she's absolutely wonderful. I mean, they both are lovely.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah.
So a little bit of background before we dive into kind of what we are now going to talk about this evening that we weren't going to talk about this evening. So a few months back, I can't remember how it happened, but I kind of had an idea and I bounced it off you. And then the opportunity to ask came up, and Simone had posted something, and in the comments, I think he'd posted a bit of artwork from 2018 because he's great at, constantly, he's obviously kept a lot of videos of him doing stuff and a lot of preliminary art pieces, before the final piece, and he feeds those out, and they're wonderful amongst the other work that he does for Marvel and the work that he's doing on Sharky, the series he's doing with Mark Miller,
the Bounty Hunter,
for Image. So he posted that, and I commented and I said, Simone, would you be up for doing something where we have a Q&A on group? And by group, I mean Marvel Masterpieces Collectors, which is, for those listening who don't know or aren't in it, is a group on Facebook for people who dig Marvel Masterpieces cards, be it 1992, 93, 94, 95, 96, 2007, 2008, 2016, or 2018 that Simone painted. So, and he was like, sure, yeah, absolutely. Without hesitation, he replied within seconds and said, sure. And I was like, okay, we've kind of got to make this happen then. So, cut to maybe 6 weeks back from when we're talking now. No, actually about 2 months. I posted on both Marvel Masterpieces Collectors and the other group, MCCW, which is for any Marvel cards, and said, okay, guys, we've got a good opportunity. We called it Ask the Creator. And we invited people to comment what questions they would like Simone to answer. The idea being that the comments with the questions with the most likes we would submit to Simone. So we did that, and we had it open, I think, for maybe a week, maybe a weekend. I can't remember now. Anyway, we got some great questions.
Great questions, yeah.
Yeah, we collated them, and we sent them over to Simone and Gloria, and She was like, great, we'll have a look at this and we'll let you know what we can do. And then it kind of went away, and we got a holding email from Gloria saying, we're absolutely mad busy because we've got the Lake Como
Yeah.
con, and which I think a couple of guys in the group who are big Simone fans and friends of his actually went over for. And then I think there was another con, and then I got another message from Gloria saying, we're trying to fit this in, but we're now renovating the studio at Simone's home that he does his work in, so fine. And then fast forward a couple of weeks back, Gloria said, okay, we kind of want to fit this in now. Bounced around a couple of days, and we set it for Thursday, the 11th of July. And the idea being that Simone would do a live Facebook video that he would stream from his home, and he would answer the questions that we'd submitted. So, and people could obviously watch it live on group. And as with most things on Facebook and most of the videos on Facebook, once we've had guys on the group who've done box breaks where they've opened product on the group, and you've seen the fruits of their labor. And then if you didn't see it live, you could watch it later. It stayed on Facebook. Now I thought that was an automatic process. Well, apparently not. So so Simone did a wonderful 40 minutes on the group, answering the questions, having a bit of banter with Gloria, his sister, which was absolutely hilarious. We kind of saw a little bit of the studio because he panned the phone around. I think he was.
He even showed us a little bit of Italy there. We saw Tuscany outside of his studio window.
Exactly. So the key thing is here, he's on a device he can move around. So I think it was a tablet or an iPhone.
I'm sure.
I'm thinking it was a tablet because he was kind of looking it down and he was reading stuff. So it must have been big enough to read.
Yeah.
The phone. So anyway, whatever it was. So all the way through this, we've been trailing it and saying, for those who can't be there at that time, because it's 7 p.m. Italy, 6 p.m. UK, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is East Coast US where you are. Some guys are in New Zealand, some guys are West Coast. A lot of people are working. Not everyone can do it. So we said, don't worry about it. What we'll do is we will, once the video's on Facebook, you can, by use of various means, you can extract the video and then post it wherever you want to. So, we could put it on the group.
Yeah.
Lo and behold, we're looking for it all last night and all this morning, and it's not there. And I saved the link to the video when it was live streaming, and I went back to it, and it just came up with a dead link. It just came up saying that the video you're viewing is expired, or you might not have permissions. So, first port of call is I messaged Simone, and when you do that, either he answers or Gloria answers. Usually Gloria, because she has access to his account, and he's obviously busy doing creative stuff.
Yeah.
Fair enough. And she said, "I'm really sorry. I've looked, and it's not here, and there's that we can't find it in his videos, and there's no permissions things anywhere. It's not. It's nothing like that." So I had a bit of a Google, and it turns out that when you do that on a mobile device, at the end of the video, you can press one or two buttons. You can either say, "That's fine. I'm done with it. It's gone," or you can say something like "Save to Facebook." And I think it's just one of those things where, they hung up. They obviously had dinner waiting because it was evening there, and they had the family there, and they went off and had dinner. So no fault of anyone's. It was just one of those things. The video was live, and it's gone. So, first of all, huge apologies to those who obviously wanted to watch it, and those
didn't get a chance to.
Didn't get a chance to. It's Gloria feels terrible about it. We feel gutted about it. As I speak, I'm actually quite upset by it because I'm kind of thinking about the guy. We've not told anyone yet on group as I record. I mean, I'm going to have to post something this evening.
Yeah. But I think I think what we could do, and we can edit this piece out if we need to, but this could be an episode where we recap that. And, if we need to tell them, there's an episode that's going to recap it and kind of go over what he answered for those questions.
That's exactly what we're about to do.
Genius.
That is what this episode is, because so earlier on, I kind of figured, it was fresh in the mind.
Yeah.
And, I watched it and I was giddy with excitement because, here we are interacting with, someone who is a pretty big name in Marvel Comics art at the moment.
Yeah.
And take Marvel out of the equation. He's kind of very well known for for all of his work at the moment. I think he mentioned on the video that he is classically trained, and that shows in his work. He's got a style that I don't think is like anything else I've seen. It's not like
No,
anything else.
he's a high-end artist.
Yeah.
I mean, he's sequential art. I mean, the
Yeah.
guy. No, he's like a huge professional. He's a
Yeah.
huge name in the industry, hands down.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And he's good enough to want to interact with fans and to do this stuff and
Yeah.
to have that close relationship, and that's really, really evident from the close relationship from the guys who have been big supporters of Simone's from before Marvel Masterpieces was happening, who've come
Yeah.
to join our community and are now part of our community because they were primarily fans of Simone's, and that's kind of a Venn diagram of love for an artist in my head. I
Yeah.
view that.
Well, it's also
The sweet
crazy. It's also crazy to think of that it really was his constant interaction and his uploading of those videos that really got everyone so excited, especially
Yep.
in our group
Yep.
for MM18. I mean, if it wasn't for him, we would all still be excited because the artwork's amazing, but it made it more personal.
Yeah.
Like, especially for me, like this is the first set I've ever put together. You know, this is the first set that I've really ever put together. I've had the older sets back in the day and everything like that, but that was when I was a kid. Now that I'm collecting professionally, especially just one character, I never have the opportunity to put a set together.
Yeah.
And it's primarily because of the amazing art, but secondary, his ability he made me feel a part of that release. And I think I'm speaking for a lot of us collectors.
Absolutely.
You know, if it wasn't for his involvement, just like Jusko is doing now with us, you know what I mean? It really is this kind of like nice kinetic energy that's existing between all of us members and the artists. It feels very personal. It feels nice. It feels like we're part of a little community.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm going to put a pin, and we'll come back to it, possibly not in this episode. A pin, in the fact that you said professionally collecting, which I like.
Oh, did
I
I say
love
that?
that. Yeah, you did, and
I
it sparked something in my brain. But anyway, we'll move on because otherwise we'll sidetrack.
I'll write it down.
It's one of those cats you see, and you think that cat is going to invite me to go on a side quest. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to stay on the path.
No, I'm not following that cat.
No, I'm not gonna follow that cat. So you mentioned. So anyway, we watched the live stream, and Gloria read out the questions, and Simone answered them, and they had a bit of banter back and forth, and it was in English. Obviously, they've got strong Italian accents, perfectly understandable. Brilliant pronunciation of some of the guys in groups' names, which Gloria
100%.
a bit.
She nailed it. She did a great job. Yeah, she did a great job.
Bless her. She took a good run up at all of them, even though she didn't quite know how to do it. And
a gem.
Yeah.
So kind.
I'll be honest with you. There's at least one in the list that we're coming up to that I'm going to struggle with, but we'll come on to that. So what we do this evening was this episode rather, because hey, you might be listening to it in the morning.
Yeah.
Is we have the questions, and I know of at least 4 or 5 guys who I messaged earlier today, and I said, listen, we're going to, this is what's happened. We're going to do this. While it's fresh in our memories, what do you remember from the answers that Simone gave? Just to check that we're not missing anything that was really interesting. And because it really was, having that video would have been capturing lightning in a bottle. Unfortunately, the bottle broke, so we are your lightning rods. Do you like that metaphor?
I like that. That's nice.
Yeah,
that's nice. Yeah, I'm conducting electricity over here right now.
Great. Enough.
That was weird. Anyway.
Yeah. Let's move on. So, oh my goodness me. I've gone. Yeah, and I'm not even drinking this episode.
We did so well. Yeah, he has water, so there's proof.
I have water. At least it looks like water. It's Daddy's medicine.
Is that a worm in it?
No, we don't do that over here. If this was alcoholic, it would be gin, dear.
It would be gin. Yeah. See, Miami, it's all tequila.
Yeah. Yeah,
has been thrown.
Anyway, train of thought has left the station. So yeah,
we're gonna
pronunciation. So
start.
we're gonna go through the questions. Just
Yeah.
to say, you mentioned Joe earlier. Joe actually, Norrin caught one screenshot of the video. And
I did.
some of the other guys might haven't. Anyway, he caught a screenshot of the video, so we will post that on the tasting notes to prove that actually it did happen. It's not.
It did happen.
It did happen. So we have one screenshot. You caught that screenshot because
I
you
did.
saw pop up on your screen.
Joe Jusko.
Yeah, was watching.
Watching. It was amazing. So I'm sitting there, we're watching it. It's happening, and then all this people are just tuning in. It's starting to fly off. It's maybe what 5-10 minutes in,
if that.
And then Joe Jusko.
I think your timestamp says about 3 minutes. Weirdly, in my head, I remember 3 minutes 39 seconds.
I'm sure that's right.
Why? But
I think it's on the screen grab.
That's what I mean. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
So Joe, good evening, sir.
Hello, buddy.
And thanks for tuning in. What I find interesting about that is the support that they gave each other. There's a really good photograph that Joe put on his Instagram feed
Yeah.
October, of Joe and Simone together at the kind of the launch exhibition at Metropolis Gallery in New York, where
so cool
paintings were available, and a lot of the guys in the group who were on the feed who were watching the video last night actually went there, but Joe was there, and I thought that was a really nice kind of handing of the baton, supportive thing to do. So I mean, it's kind of a very exclusive club. The guys that have created the guys and the ladies. When I say club, it's kind of an all-inclusive thing.
Yeah, so do I.
Non-specific, but just to be clear, obviously Julie, huge
Julie,
the legacy, and
so awesome.
So yeah, it's kind of a very, very exclusive club, like the Ring Bearers in Lord of the Rings. I kind of like to think of it as that they bear it. Yeah.
I mean, it's such a thing to like accomplish, right? I mean, they're doing like most artists. How many covers do they do for comic books? You know what I mean? I mean, you look at these card sets, especially masterpieces.
Yeah.
Like those are all covers. Those are all potential comic book covers.
Oh yeah.
That's how I see those original arts.
Yeah.
And like, you know, it's kind of cool. Like actually, we just saw more pictures of Joe and Hildebrandt hanging out. Right?
Yes, that's right. There was a con. Jersey, I believe.
I think it was New Jersey, and they were hanging out, and you know, all smiles, and it's kind of a really cool glimpse into that community, into that, you know.
They were both at the same con, because I think Greg is New Jersey based, and I believe Joe is upstate New York. I might be wrong, but anyway, then that neck of the woods.
That neck of the woods.
You know, hell of a lot closer than to you than me. So but anyway. So what I figured we'd do is I've made some notes and I've got the questions here, and I think pretty much all of these questions got read out, and we're going to basically recount to the best of our knowledge what was said. I'm going to caution you now, there will be a little bit of swearing that we may or may not bleep out. We'll see how we feel. But basically, Simone said that, so because he's a very entertaining chap. He speaks from the heart. He's a very passionate guy, and that comes out in his language. And there was one particular quote that I do want to. A couple of blokes, a couple of guys who were there on the feed actually pointed out to me that he said. In fact, I'm gonna get it out of the way at the top. He said it a couple of times, but it was his delivery was perfect, and he referred to the streaming technology as "damn Facebook witchcraft shit." He said it a number of times because I think like a lot of people,
that was great.
It's kind of like, well, this is kind of it. This is Facebook. You know, I hate it, but it's kind of how.
It's kind of the only medium to do this.
Yeah. So you know, he gets.
That's pretty good. I like that.
It's a tool for him to talk to us and for us to have this engagement.
Yeah.
This engagement, which we'll come back onto once we've got through the questions. So I'm going to dive into these, and I'm going to say who read them as Gloria did, and then
Yeah. Let me describe the so just to give you guys a glimpse, because I know we don't have the video, you'll see a
Yeah.
picture, but just to give you an idea, because there are a lot of people who'd be interested in this. So they are redoing their studio.
Mhm.
It was on the second floor. You can kind of see, he showed us Tuscany in the background a little bit at one point, which is
At the
really
end,
cool to
he went
see.
out on his
Near the
balcony
end,
and you see
right? He went on the
the
balcony and showed it to us.
Mhm.
Very awesome moment. But in his office, there were statues. He had the Wolverine bust head. He
And a
had
Batman
some
one.
and a Batman one. So he had some really cool setup that he's going to do for this new office. Obviously, he had, um, then so we got to see some statues, we got to see a bookcase, got to see some furniture or whatever, and then he turned the camera and we got to see a huge painting that was there. I think it was his Conan painting, like one of the Savage Land paintings.
Now I'm glad you saw, because I didn't see that, because
Yeah.
although I had the video streaming, but I didn't watch it 100% of the time because I had the audio playing through
Mm,
Alexa, so I could hear everything. But I was in my kitchen and I was preparing food, so I
okay.
step away and not be watching the video, thinking naively that of course I can rewatch. so
Yeah.
so I'm glad one of us spotted that. This is why we've kind of pulled our resources memory wise
Yeah.
to be able to.
When you were telling me earlier to recount things, I was like, let me write down what it looked like. Because I remember looking
Good.
around. I was like, what is going on? So that was the only painting that was really out. You
Yeah.
could see that he had a few more, but not really viewable because it was such a massive painting.
Yeah,
Um,
they had a
and
lot
the
of stuff in
color,
boxes.
it was a lot of stuff in boxes. So
Yeah.
that was pretty much the room. Maybe a few other things I'm missing, but those were the big highlights that I thought would be really fun for collectors to remember.
Mm.
All right,
And
let's get in the questions.
and it looked freshly painted, because if I remember before,
Oh, yeah.
the room that he did previous live videos from had a dark palette on the walls, and there were frames on the walls, and I think it's the same room, but it was much brighter. I mean,
Yeah.
I would say white walls probably. So
Yeah, I agree.
tried to brighten the space and just to give it more light.
Yeah.
I'm a fan of white interiors. We have one here at home, so simply because it brightens things, and we prefer dark wood furniture. So
Yeah, so I definitely messed up when I painted my office because I thought,
what is
I
that,
love,
purple?
I know it's purple. Okay, yeah, okay, guys, fine, I can admit it. I have an office, and I was going for a cosmic dark purple, like a nebula purple, because I thought it'd be cool because I never got to paint my room as a kid, and I wanted to do it, so I did it.
Okay.
And it's really dark.
Okay, so we've
It's
talked
really
in previous
purple.
episodes that Joe Gisco did that Starfield background on Marvel Universe 1992,
Yes.
and he said it was an absolute SOB to paint, and it actually took him an awful long time to do. I'm wondering what his rates would be to come down there. If he kind of paid for him to come down, all expenses, and he kind of just stands there amongst dust sheets and maybe in
See,
his
this feels like an
back.
MTV special I would have been into watching
And
when I was
actually,
a kid.
or does that one of those programs whereby people come in and renovate your house over a
Yeah,
weekend, and you
yeah.
don't know it's happened, or there's someone in the family who doesn't know it's happened, and it's a
Pimp out
surprise?
my office.
Yeah.
Boom. Done.
So,
Pitched.
yeah, I think you need it just goed.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to Italy.
Back to Italy.
So yeah, so it was awesome, and he was, I think for the first 5-10 minutes, the device, the phone, the tablet was at quite a low angle, so you could
Yeah.
kind of just see the ceiling above Simone. But I think they kind of then sort of moved it around a little bit, and it was
Mm-hmm.
more in frame and things like that. So, and he's got a bit of a beard going on at the moment, but I imagine if he's been, especially if they've been doing a lot of the work themselves, and it might be more than that room that's in
It looked good.
topsy-turvy.
It
Yeah,
looked good.
it looked good. He was
Yeah,
rocking
yeah.
that beard. It
I
was,
think killed it. Yeah.
yeah, it's coming across strong. I mean, we're both bearded
Strong.
men, but he absolutely nailed it. So let's let's dive into the questions.
Yeah.
I'm missed part of this answer because when the Facebook, when the video goes live, if you don't get a notification, you just have to keep refreshing the page. So I think they dived straight in. They didn't wait for people to jump on and find the live stream.
Yeah.
So they dived in. So this was from Josh Cudney. Hello, Josh, who
Josh.
we know is a collector and a
Josh
fan
is the
of
best. Yeah.
original art. So he owns.
Yeah.
He went to that exhibition in New York that we mentioned earlier.
Yeah. Josh owns some pieces from him, and
Exactly,
he's a very avid collector.
And he owns a few pieces from Greg Hildebrandt, and I'm sure many other people. So that's his passion, So Josh asked, I love the Red Skull painting from Marvel Masterpieces 2018, and was wondering if it was a coincidence or if this early Detective Comics served as an inspiration for the piece. Now, I think Josh possibly posted that image when he asked the question, but I rather stupidly didn't send it over to Simone with the questions. I just sent the text of the questions. However, the first thing I remember Simone saying is he is familiar with the cover that Josh means, but he didn't take any direct inspiration from it. But I think he was saying that he sees how the comparison would come across, but he didn't take direct inspiration from it. But I don't remember anything else from that.
Yeah, so he said he thought the cover was of Satana holding something in her arms or something of that nature, in terms of the cover. So he said originally that he actually didn't know about that cover, and then became aware of it later on.
Oh, I'm with you.
And then he said it was a beautiful cover. He said mad props to the cover, but that was not anything in his mind that influenced the actual Red Skull painting.
Yeah, which is a beautiful painting. So
it's a great painting. I mean, looking at that Red Skull and then looking at the Electro, you can see where that lighting source is so rich in Simone's work, and how it just kind of does this great, fast fall off, very noir, very dark, one point of lighting, Rembrandt lighting, where you have, it's probably Rembrandt lighting, where you have one source of lighting, and that lighting just lights up those figures so well. Like the Electro and the Red Skull both follow that pattern. Beautiful pieces, yeah.
And that's the interesting, and this will come up again, the use of light in Simone's work in different ways, and the way that it falls is, I think, kind of almost the Rosetta Stone for kind of understanding and viewing the work that he's done, certainly on this set for me, in the same way that Dave was talking about, Dave DeVries,
Dave,
talking a few weeks back when we interviewed him about the kind of fisheye lens and the way the eye travels,
extreme POV and the way the eye travels.
So it's very interesting, the different styles in play here. So
the strong aesthetics. Yeah, I agree.
Exactly. So anyway, that obviously it goes without saying, everything we're talking about, if you're looking at the post on the Facebook group for the podcast at MCC Pod on Facebook, all the images of the stuff we're talking about will be on there. So Have a Butcher's. Suddenly occurs to me that a lot of the audience might know what Have a Butcher's means. Do you know what Have a Butcher's means?
I have no. I was just nodding because I felt bad and I didn't want to interrupt you, but I do not. I'm learning so much, though.
It is. It's Cockney rhyming slang. So Have a Butcher's is rhyming slang, and the way Cockney rhyming slang works is it's obviously something that rhymes. So Butcher's is butcher's hook, and that rhymes with look. So if you're going to have a look at something, you can have a butcher's instead.
Okay.
Yeah.
Complicated, but I'm there. I'm following.
But it's kind of only one removed, but it's kind of the way it works. So you might have heard. Well, here's a modern one for you then. Have you heard of a DJ called Pete Tong?
No, I'm not hip.
You're not down with the kids. Well, Pete Tong.
I wish I was down with the kids.
To be fair, he's been around a couple of decades, so he's not exactly
okay. He's not that fresh.
He's kind of a 90s. He's still very active, but 90s was when he kind of came up. House dance music DJ, and it is common parlance now, certainly in England, to say it's all gone a bit Pete Tong.
And that means
it's all gone wrong.
It's all gone wrong. Okay.
It's all in the rhyming, you see.
Okay.
You're starting to get it now.
Okay, it's clicking. Yeah. It's clicking.
Good.
I'm not confident in my Cockney skills, but I'm. Yeah.
Exactly. So there's a lot of other references, and a lot of them are to personalities and people.
The only thing
wouldn't understand.
The thing I think about when you say cocky is IT Crowd, where what a ludicrous display last night, and he goes through the program where he does the voice.
I'm just
where he's trying to be manly. Yeah. I did a horrible impression, but
that's
what I think about. That's the American.
Gone.
That's me. That's what I have. I'm sorry. I wish we were better.
That was wonderful. Thank
There
you
you
for doing
go.
that. That's
a
hit my
little for
chuckle
you.
button. That has.
There you
But
go.
the
And this is recording, so everyone can hear that.
this is recording. Yes,
So that will be out there.
that's okay. Hey, listen, we've both done far worse on this podcast, and I'm
That's
sure
so true.
far worse is yet to come.
It's already happened.
I will probably drop some more rhyming slang into this podcast as we go.
I'm excited. Let's do this.
We will. Anyway, so moving on to Simone Bianchi. Back to
The questions.
So Pankit Shah. Good evening, Pankit.
Thank you.
Said so many questions lingering on my mind. My first one: what were your first thoughts when you first heard about the opportunity to paint for the Marvel Masterpieces set? I loved Simone's answer to this.
Yeah.
In fact, it kind of goes hand in hand. He kind of answered it. There was a similar question before we dive into the answer, where he was. Sorry, bear with me. I'm having to scroll here. No, it's gone. It's gone. I'm sure there was a similar question, and he. I think the first thing he said was.
He brings up the answer to that question back when someone asks him what was his favorite part about painting it or something of that nature. Yeah, it comes up. Yeah, anyway, I'll remember. Go for it.
To basically sum it up, I think he said something to the effect of, the first thing he said instantly was yes to Jennifer Wu. She's actually in the group, and I think she's like the artist liaison.
I think so.
Person at Upper Deck, and a lot of artists have mentioned her in passing, and we're thrilled to have her in the group. So good evening,
yeah,
if you're listening.
Hello.
And come on the podcast, talk to us.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
And then I think he immediately realised as soon as he got off the phone, pretty much very straight away, that he would not be able to work on anything else. I think kind of dawned on him the scale of the task.
Yeah, because it was he realized very quickly that he would not be able to work on anything else. Exactly. Covers, comics, panels. That would be the 14 months of his life on that set.
Exactly. So it's interesting. We come back to the time scale actually because someone else asked it. So I'm going to jump around the questions here.
Someone asked how long.
Someone asked how long it took them, how long it took him to do it. And it was here we go. Armand Asante.
Asante.
I think that's how you pronounce your surname, Armand. How long did it take to complete all the artwork for the set? And he actually answered this earlier, but he went back and added to the answer. So it's 15 months. But then I love. There was a follow-up question from Armand that actually dovetailed with the answer, which was really good. Were there any pieces you went back and changed or wish you had the time to change after completion? And Simone said that he actually finished at 14 and a half months. He finished 2 weeks before deadline.
Yep.
And so he spent that 2 weeks just going back and refining any of the pieces that he wanted to go back and revisit.
Yeah.
And just making some small tweaks to them. And I think if you think about the fact that there were 135 paintings, some of which would have been done for over a year at this point.
Yeah.
You know, having the opportunity, having the fortune and the good timing
and the foresight to do that, right?
Because that to have finished with enough time to then just take a tour of the battlements and say, I just want to add some light to that piece, or I want to do something to this piece, or tweak the hair, or change the color, whatever it may be.
Yeah, or like add a white line to like outline a character from the background a little bit more, or something of that nature. Something small, a small tweak.
Yeah. So I found that fascinating. Actually, I thought that was a real insight to the care that he took to create these pieces.
Yeah.
I think that's probably the best way to say it.
I think that's exactly the way to say it. Yeah. I mean, you don't do that kind of stuff if it's just the job. And he, throughout the interview, the atmosphere and the tone was very much reading between the lines. Simone was just happy to have that piece of history, to have worked on a huge, massive trading card set.
Yeah.
Like he was really proud of it, and he should be. That set is amazing.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
he nailed it. I mean, it's definitely one for the books in terms of card collecting.
Exactly.
That will always, that's a huge highlight. Huge highlight.
So there's a note there I want to come back to about the fact that he's done a set, but I'll come back to that because it's kind of a good one to plant towards the end. Jorge Hernandez, I think that's how you pronounce it. Begins with
it's Hernandez. You nailed it.
Is it Jorge? Is that how you pronounce that?
It's George, Jorge. Yeah.
George. Yeah, I read it as George, but then I'm English, so
It depends. I don't know if Hernandez. I'm sure he's Spanish.
Anyway, we're just going to call you Steve. So Steve asks, apologies. What character took you the longest to create / paint? Is this the one where he said Dr. Octopus?
Yes. He said the background was really complicated, which was
he said he'd hurt his neck.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
So he hurt his neck. So he had his neck in a stint in a brace, and that made it very difficult for him to do Dr. Octopus.
Yes, that's right. And I think did he mention the tentacles being a bit of a
I think he said something about the tentacles, but then I could have sworn he said something about the background as well.
Definitely background as well. I think, generally speaking, he's clearly got less fond memories of doing that particular work. Not that he had an issue with the character.
He had no issue with any character.
No, absolutely.
We actually know his favorite piece too, because he actually told us his favorite piece as well. So I'm looking at the Dr. Octopus.
Yeah.
Jesus. So I've never looked at this card as closely as I should have. But if you look at the background, just to describe it to our listeners, he is definitely in a lab. Mm-hmm. And there's these two water tanks one on each side of him.
Yep.
It's a very nice looking card. And the background is very much that dystopian universe that Simone created, completely separate from anything we've seen before. And they're all unified between all the cards. This is a very complicated background.
Exactly.
Because there's a lot of chrome, and he put a very nice chrome effect on the legs of Dr. Octopus, the arms, I guess.
Legs, arms,
legs, arms, and there's a lot of really interesting green that it's a very
it's the light source behind him as well.
Yeah, it's a very difficult piece now that I'm looking at it, because you can look at the vanishing point as well, like the oranges and all that stuff. Like
but just check out the arm that's closest to you.
Oh man,
what's on the tip?
You got that flare.
It's just a gleam of light.
Gleam of light.
Yeah,
it's a circle. Gleam of light.
I've never noticed that before.
No.
So,
and the glasses look so good on there too. And then you have that light source, kind of like Electro, not as predominant or as extreme, but you do have a little bit of that light source coming from the bottom, which really gives a nice dimension to the card.
Yeah.
It's really a nice card. It's probably one of the better ones, I would say, now that I look at it.
I have to say, I mean, the Spider-Man characters, for me, possibly because of my affinity to Spider-Man, more so than some of the other characters that were in there from Thor and from Avengers, that characters that I'm less familiar with. So Beta Ray Bill, for example, I'm not familiar with at all. And I think, didn't he say that was one of his favorite pieces?
That, Black Bolt, and Black Panther.
That's it.
Those were big ones. Those were the big ones I remember. It's funny. I was on eBay looking at Simone's Dr. Octopus card, and in the thumbnails on the bottom, there's the Dr. Octopus that Jusco did. I'm not going to lie to you. They're really funny to look at the pairing.
Yeah.
Because in the Jusco card, there are two arms in the composition in the framing of the card, just like Simone's. And in the Jusco card, he had an atomic nuclear plant, and in Simone's card, kind of has the same kind of feel. It's crazy looking at the pairing. They're
interesting.
Very similar. Yeah, they're very similar. Wow, that's fascinating. Yeah, but the Spider-Man villains he did for the set, like the Mysterio. I don't know what it is about that Mysterio, but I love that.
Mysterio. Yeah.
I love that effect. I really like the green highlight, the stroke of the light green on the fog. Like I like that Mysterio. It's cool.
It's good.
It's really, all of them are good, man. All of them are really good. But yeah, I love the Spider-Man villains he did.
Absolutely wonderful stuff. It's interesting because some of the answers that he gave expanded on earlier answers, and he kind of so it kind of felt like, even though there were separate questions from separate people, it kind of came together, and it came together from I'm going to kind of jump forward a little bit because there was a question by David DiMarchi where he asked the top 3 characters that he created and painted, which I think
awesome question.
Yeah,
fun question.
What was it? What was it? You just said Beta Ray Bill.
Oh, it was Beta Ray Bill. It was Black Panther.
It's interesting.
Wait, what is it? Is it BEAT?
It's BETA, but you can pronounce it Beta or Beta. But it's like Data from Star Trek: The Next Generation.
It's Data.
Yeah, but I've been at a conference when Australians have pronounced it Data.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, no, it's not. I just honestly, I wanted to get up there and slap him, but it was just winding me up. But it's interesting that you say that, and I pronounce and you'd think that beta would beta rhymes with data. So why isn't beta correct? Why is it beta? I don't know. You say tomato, I say tomato. Anyway, favorite characters were tomato, tomato, and potato. So yeah, Beta Ray Bill,
Black Panther,
and
Black Bolt.
But I'm sure Cyclops got a special mention at some point.
Well, he said the battle spectra of Cyclops and Wolverine was particularly difficult, but he also really loved that one as well. I remember that being some kind of compliment. Oh, because one of the questions or one of the things he went off on was talking about how there were, or maybe I'm jumping the gun. I might be jumping the gun. Someone asked how many different versions of a painting, like did he want to do a different version, or did he have a hard time landing on a particular preliminary, like a particular design for a card that he wanted to do?
I think it was Stephen Bagley asking which character changed the most from initial concept to finished product and why.
Yeah, he said Cyclops and Wolverine was a big one. And we've seen a pretty cool range of preliminary arts because of the redemption cards come up in the group, and seen some different like poses that he's done as well. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, we've seen a couple pieces. Yeah, different from the final pieces, like Captain Marvel.
Yeah,
I think was different. And there were some other ones that were a little different as well.
I can't remember them now off the top of my head. It's interesting that when there is that difference, everyone goes a bit nuts.
Yeah, I know. That's kind of cool.
In a good way,
like
you know.
Yeah, in a good way. Yeah, I love that. I get into that.
Yeah, it's great, and so it was interesting that someone asked that. Anyway, going back to David's question, what inspired you, or where did you get your inspiration from when creating each character on each card? And my recollection on that is that Simone said, I'm having trouble remembering now.
What was the question?
What inspired you, and where did you get your inspiration from when creating each character on each card? And I think,
yeah, he didn't answer anything like crazy specific for that.
No, he didn't. But the reason I brought that up, because actually I'm not sure that was asked, but the top 3 characters part of that was definitely asked. But what was asked earlier kind of answered that question, which. We might have to edit this bit out because I can't find it.
It's okay.
Here we go. Armand again asked, "Did you get to choose what characters you wanted in this set?"
That's right. There it is.
Characters. So that the answer to that and David's question kind of linked together, because Simone said that he pretty much got all of what he wanted. I think he said at least 80%.
Yeah, probably a little more, he said, because there was nothing that he did not want.
Yeah.
That was in the final list.
Yeah.
Like he was happy with all of them.
And they gave him complete freedom of what to draw in them.
Right.
I don't think, I got the impression.
He did say that there was some kind of like, the banned ones like Fantastic Four, he would have been interested.
Yeah. It was
And
interesting that he didn't say that, though. He didn't use
no,
that word. He basically, the way Simone was very, very careful.
yeah,
And rightly so, because don't bite the
rightly
hand,
so.
don't bite the hand that feeds you.
Yep.
And the other expression being never where you eat. You'll have to bleep that out.
Yep.
It's a lovely expression, that.
It is. I like it.
It is. I think the way he phrased it was, I wanted to use this character, I wanted to use this, but for reasons I think you're all probably aware of, they
Yes.
couldn't go in the set. And he was basically saying, we all know why, but
Yeah.
but he mentioned Surfer, and you
Damn
got
right.
quite excited.
I did. I was like, hell yeah.
I could hear you squealing.
You saw me, right? I was
Yeah.
You could hear it from across this country. I was like,
the ocean. In fact, my cat looked out the window and said, "What's that sound?
What is that?"
Because it's a sound
Gazing
that
off.
can hear.
Well, he also was talked about Black Cat too.
He did. Well, so the thing we're kind of missing here is that throughout, for those who don't know, on a live video, you can comment on it as you would any other post on Facebook, and they come up on the screen of the person who's talking. So at various points, people would jump on and say, "Ciao, Simone," or "Hi," and Simone would break off and go, "Hey, ciao, Matt," and "Ciao, Otis," and these guys that he knows and has met at conventions, and it was just lovely, because it was like he'd break off an answer to kind of give them an audio hug.
It was awesome. Yeah, he was super welcoming and warm.
Lovely.
Yeah, it was so awesome.
To everyone.
Yeah, to everyone. No, all of us. I mean, I got a shout out. Ian got a shout out.
So it was nice.
It was really cool.
Because I asked him he's rather cheeky, because he's got a list of questions he's trying to answer, and there's people firing at him comments on the thing. But I think I said, would you do a solo Black Cat? And I think I said that. I'm gonna put this in now, actually, because it kind of fits in the conversation. But he did say early, and then repeated it again, that he would be well up for doing another full Marvel set.
He would want to do another one. How crazy is that?
Yeah, and he wants to, and he's up for it. And he said he'd obviously need to think a bit more about the scheduling of it in terms of his other work commitments. And he didn't allude to anything, but maybe he's got a contract coming up that he can't talk about. But I was speculating there. He didn't say that.
He didn't say that at all.
I'm kind of reading between the lines.
Yeah, and there was some other speculation about sketch cards, which was pretty cool to hear him say. We won't say anything.
No, although we know that he has done.
We saw him on the list for Premiere, right?
It was Premiere, and he mentioned in answer to. So this is actually a good segue. Every episode has got a segue.
I'm the worst.
And
I want the listeners to know it's 100% my fault.
That's quite all right.
Ian is very organized, and I just out there.
Bless you, dear. Someone did ask, is there a character that? Here we go. Darren Bacchino. Good evening, Darren. Favorite Marvel character to draw? So I think we touched on that one. Are there any Marvel characters you do not care to draw? And he said, I love them all. And then he kind of had a second thought, and he said, but Squirrel Girl. And he referenced that he'd had to do a sketch card of Squirrel Girl.
Yeah, and he referenced that.
I think that's Premiere.
Has to be Premiere, because Premiere, if you guys remember, Premiere, and this is a crazy insight into the set that's coming out for 2019 Premiere, is that we're going to have limited sketch cards for characters. So like the other ones, they would get Squirrel Girl, Spider-Man, Iron Man, and the card would say the name of the superhero on the sketch card, on the blank sketch card before they drew it. On the back. Actually, on the front. For 2012, it was on the front. On the side in the right-hand column, I got the Surfer for the 2012.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then the picture of
they did it on 2012.
I know, it's pretty cool. Yeah, they did it on 2012. Yeah. So I don't know if they did it on the 2014. Maybe they did. I don't like
They did it on 2014. They didn't do it on 2012, because my Black Cat sketch cards are from 2012, and they don't say the character name on there.
For Premiere?
Yeah. Absolutely certain. Anyway, we'll go and figure that out. But on
go for
Premiere, on the new Premiere at least, like the last Premiere, which was 2017, I want to say.
20. I think it was 2017.
Yeah. Anyway,
No, yes, I don't know.
Marvel Premiere is a top end. It's the most expensive set that Upper Deck put out. There's a everything is serial numbered in terms of the base cards. There's a limited number. I think there's only about 50 base cards a set anyway. Certainly were in the first one.
Mhm.
And it's very limited, but the sketches are quite an interesting thing because they're either single panel or they've got the kind of a hinge on them, and they're double or triple as well.
Yeah. So
So you
usually,
get a full canvas. You can kind of get a fuller canvas on the back.
yeah. So the Premiere stuff is pretty serious. So yeah, the names are on the cards of 2012 for the sketches. They're on the right hand. They're hard to see.
Wow, in that
but
case, I've just completely missed it.
I mean, it doesn't matter. So yeah, so maybe they're that. I'm assuming what's going on there just to get some insight into Premiere because I'm sure we're all excited. I think that's what's going on. Is that the sketch cards that he was given had names on them, so it forced him to draw particular characters.
Yeah.
So that'd be kind of cool because and I don't want to dive into this too long, but for the 2018, he had very specific characters he chose, and he did multiple headshots. So Iron Man, Spider-Man, Hulk,
Wolverine.
Wolverine.
There's 3 Wolverine headshots out there.
Was there a Black Bolt? I feel like he did a Black Bolt.
Yeah, there was. So for those listening who might not know, for as well as painting the entire base card set,
Yeah.
Simone then went back and did an unknown number, and I've asked twice now, and
we're not getting a number.
Bless her has said, I can't tell you. I think the statute of limitations on that one is not yet up. So I don't think they legally can tell us. And they weren't in the physical product that went to stores. So I think Simone did those because, like with other sets, there was kind of a second wave of sketch cards that were put into EPAC's release, which was a few months after the physical in-stores release. So Simone's sketch cards, which are very, very different because obviously they're not full paintings for a start.
Right, they're just sketches. Yeah.
But they're playful is the word I'm going to use.
I'm into them. I think they're awesome. Like regardless, I'm more, I think there's 2 types of sketch card collectors. There's a lot of types of sketch card collectors, obviously, but 2 of the main ones I always hear is, either they want it full acrylic, full painting, and that's the highest end type of stuff, like the Jusco APs sketch cards. You know what I mean? They're fully painted. Fabian does fully painted, and then
Charles
Hall fully painted. So and then you have other people who do actual sketch work where you see the pencil markings, you see some paint on there. You know what I mean? And it's very much a sketch. And being a collector of like older, right, or full ink, like back in the day with sketchographs. And you had the greats doing, like legendary comic book artists doing sketchographs back in the day. Stan Lee doing Spider-Man in pencil. You know what I mean? Like you had real history to the way they approach doing sketch cards because they just sketched on them.
Yeah.
I think each way is valid 100%, but these are very much like sketches, like the preliminaries.
So the interesting thing about Simone's sketch cards that were in the EPAC's release is that we were counting them as they appeared.
Yeah, we did.
And I think I've managed to keep. I don't think they're on group, but I've definitely got them in a folder on my Google Drive. I need to put them on the group. I've counted 17 or 18, I think, individual.
That's the number I have too.
Yeah,
I haven't seen any more than that.
No, but I'm sure there are more than that because, as you know, with EPACs, if you open it and you want to keep it hidden, you lock it straight away. So I'm absolutely certain. I mean, just speculate as much as you want how many you did, but I think 20 is probably a solid number. I think most of them are out there. People want to show them off because it's Simone, but they're fascinating. So I'll
really cool.
What I'll do on the tasting notes is I'll put up a couple of them, not all of them, because people are going to be scrolling forever. The ones
Just
I
to show
like
the
are the ones.
style. Yeah.
Yeah, the ones I like are the 3 different versions of Wolverine, and there's I think at least 2 Electras. And she's
Yeah.
got
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
button
Yeah.
nose thing. She looks a bit like the way that Chris Bacalo drew
Oh
Death
yeah.
back in the day in
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
Sandman
Yeah.
comics.
Yeah.
That's what
I
that
love
Electra
that.
reminds me of.
That's pretty cool. That's a good one. That's a really
But
good
it's an
reference.
interesting thing because at the different scale, Simone's style is different.
I mean, I think it would have to be.
Yeah, but that's what I find interesting. It looks so different to the to the bigger pieces. So, which
They
is
really
another
do.
good segue of the episode.
Segway.
Segways in the night. Couple of people asked this, and this was kind of the question that I remember when I sent it in. You said, "Oh, you shouldn't have included that." But
Oh yeah,
a few
man.
people asked this, and this is the big one. This is the kind of the slaying of the voices, the people that may not have dug the set, who quite happily, said so on various forums and things like that. So, we've seen the preliminary art sketches and we've seen the paintings. The cards seem darker than your paintings. Any explanations? That's Daniel Rubin asked that. Armand asked the same thing in a different way. Armand asked, some collectors have noticed some of the final cards look darker and lost the vibrancy and color of the original paintings. Interesting follow-up question here. Do you have a full set of the trading cards, and are you happy with the final product? So that's the bit that he tackled first, and he said, absolutely, 100%. I've got a set of the cards. I love them. Upper Deck did an absolutely brilliant job. I wouldn't have anything any other way. So that's the first thing Simone said, and hats off to him for just
hell yeah,
nailing that one.
absolutely.
Okay. There's no. Let's just be absolutely clear. There's no room for interpretation there. 100%. He's
100%.
Then he went on to say, and he said this in a different way because the question, Armand's question, came up first, and he kind of answered it, and then he went on, and then obviously there was a repeat question asked by Daniel, and Gloria read that out as well. And I remember commenting on the video, apologies for the duplicate question, and Simone was like, no, it's absolutely cool. I kind of really want to get into this. And he then went on to say that because a number of things, but obviously the first thing he started to say was, you got to remember that the paintings are probably 3 main sizes. The biggest ones are, and he stretched his arms out, and some of them are quite
giant.
small, but some of them, I think there's 3 different sizes, I think he said.
Yeah, there are 3 different sizes. You can see that too, because if you go to comicconnect.com, where some of his work is still available, you can see the dimensions there.
Exactly. We'll pop a link on that, and the dimensions were also on the Metropolis guide.
Yes.
That I think I downloaded. I know I've got a physical copy where you could buy the paintings, but they are also there are photos from that Metropolis exhibition. Again, this is going to be the longest tasting notes pictorial gallery ever. My goodness.
I'm so sorry, man. I know that's not easy.
No, it does. Actually, it does take quite a while to pull together.
I'm sure.
But that's cool. No, listen, I love it. I love doing it. It's fine. There are photos from the Metropolis, so you can see the different size of the paintings that are there.
That's cool.
One of the guys in the group, William Heath Lawson. Good evening, William.
Oh yeah, William
was at the exhibition, and he took the photograph of Simone giving the thumbs up that we use on the Art of the Creator. Man.
Seriously,
you can see there the different scales of the painting.
Yeah,
so basically,
you got the rocket.
Are different scales. Some of them are small, kind of, iPad Pro size.
That's a good one,
but it's quite a decent thing. Some of them are kind of, maybe I don't know, size of
bigger than 11 by 17.
Yeah, exactly,
like around there.
And then some of them are probably,
massive, like poster size.
Yeah,
probably not as big as a giant movie poster, but
not
like half the size.
Not far off. And you can see this yourself if you go to any one of the videos that Simone has posted. You can see him working on them, so you can kind of get a sense of the scale. So I guess the first thing that tells you is that obviously he's painting them in a studio, there's a lot of natural light, and this is the same with anything. Okay, because I remember talking to guys in our studio at the agency that I work for about this, is that a lot of colors that you can paint physically with real paints, and I don't fully know the science of this, but this is my understanding of it, is once you convert that to a digital color, not all colors are possible to create in the digital spectrum within
not at all.
that same tone. The other thing is that the light hits the paintings in a different way. If it hits physical material that's been used to paint, either oil paint or be it inks or be it watercolors or whatever it is, the light hits them in a different way depending on how thick it is, how it's been applied,
the material of the canvas.
Material, exactly. Whether
you know what I mean?
paper,
Like you're having light,
whether it's canvas, exactly.
Yeah, you're having light bounce back.
Yeah.
When you're scanning things, you're really just getting the surface.
Exactly.
You're not getting any bounce back to the eye. So you're not getting a diffuse. You're not getting a glow.
Exactly.
And by the way, so everybody knows, which is why I didn't want that question there when I read it, because I wanted the question to be more about asking about his art and choices that he did in the art, which eventually, I mean, we got tons of great questions, and those questions were there.
That came, yeah.
The 92 Jusco stuff, those paintings look very different from the final product. They're not exactly the same either. And neither is Julie's, neither is Boris.
Exactly.
All of them are very different. And I've been looking at a lot of original trading card art lately, which we'll talk about in another podcast.
Absolutely.
But those are very different in person. Even Hildebrand, right? Very different in person as opposed to the printed product.
Yeah. So this goes into, that whole bit about the light and the digital and the composition, that wasn't what Simone was saying. That's kind of me putting that.
That's just us, yeah.
So Simone started by saying about the size, and then he went on to say these are being reproduced in a very fixed small format. So that is your main difference. It's going to be much, much, much smaller.
Yeah.
And also they're printed with a gloss.
Mm-hmm.
The cards are by and large
glossy.
The canvas ones are, canvas type material.
Yeah,
and
they're bumpy.
so I guess the best way to kind of look at that is if you look at the cards 91 through 100, the canvas gallery. There's basically the gallery part of the card. 91 through 100 of the gallery, and the base on that are called canvas. Then you've got a gold subset, which are limited to 99 cards, I believe. And they are not a canvas. They are a shiny gloss. And side by side, the artwork looks completely different on them, even though it's the same painting. Because the canvas is a much darker material. It feels kind of the picture looks softer in a way.
Yeah.
The light hits it and it doesn't kind of do the same thing. It doesn't bounce off in the same way. It's kind of absorbs it a little bit more. And when you look at it on the shiny gold gallery card, it looks very, very different. So that's
such a good point.
I was thinking about that because
that's brilliant.
Those two side by side, it almost looks like a different painting, or kind of like, and yet they're the same paint. I'm sure the painting looks completely different to both of those.
Yeah, to both of those versions. I'm sure. Yeah, they are.
So it's kind of like, listen, they were bigger, now they're smaller, and his artwork is a very different style to other artists that have done these sets, which is why they probably approached him.
Yeah, I mean, they should have approached him. They should approach people differently. I mean, look, we're never
exactly.
I mean, dude, Dave DeVries, just talking from our last podcast, or from the interview we had with him.
Yeah,
that man's work is completely different.
Yes.
Than what Masterpiece was dealing with at the time.
Yeah.
And we love it. And look, I'll be honest, and this podcast is about honesty, kind of. And
I'm not wearing it.
And he's not wearing it. That's the level of honesty we got here.
Exactly.
I'm going to be honest. I think that so funny. So, these boxes of cards are expensive. These are premium products.
These day and age, they are. Yeah.
They are right now. Right, the day and age, the modern card collector, the professional card collector, which I'll joke around about, These are modern cards, and we just got off 2016, and people invested a lot of money into the 2016. And I think, and this is my speculation, this was not spoken on at all, but I'm going to bring it up. I think Simone knew that question because he did mention that people have asked him that before about the color difference in the cards. And I'm going to not lie. I think some of that came from Blowout. And I think it was super disappointing when that happened on the Blowout forums, which we'll talk about briefly. It was a forums before our group where pretty much everything was happening in non-sport. And people were a little salty about this set, a few, not the majority at all. And there were a lot of comments being thrown out there. That's what happened back in the day. And, it wasn't until the group, and then Simone was putting the work out there and sharing with the group and sharing on his social media, where a lot of collectors from Blowout came to the group to Facebook, and we kind of just started participating on this platform because it was a lot more positivity. And, this also goes to talk about some other things briefly, is that these artists are coming on to our group, and they are kind enough and for free talking to us about their work, which they do not have to do. And they do not owe us or anything of that nature. But they are doing it because they are excited and they are fans of the cards. And I guarantee you, as you hear more of the interviews from artists that we're planning to do and that have done, all of them are fans of the card series.
Absolutely.
Collected. They're all fans. They all want to do and participate in this really cool tradition that's happening in Marvel cards. And that is the positivity that should be kind of cultivated around here.
Absolutely.
And, that's really what we're looking at here. And Simone did a great job talking about the set and, that, and the two things he did say, just to bring it back to the actual point, is that it went from big to small. And when you do that kind of digitization, which is 100% true, you're not going to get the same looking product. You'll get similarities, very similarities, but you're not going to get the same. Also,
absolutely,
there are color chips in your computers, and there are color chips in these cameras, and they can't register a certain resolution, and they don't have every translation for every type of color hue, because sometimes colors look different depending on the temperature of the light of the room you're in. From fluorescent lights to daylight, color registers differently. So it makes complete sense that they would look different.
As does the optic nerve, as does the light hitting the back of your eye.
On top of glossy, on top of all that other stuff with card material.
I guarantee you that every single person sees the cards very, 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 very slightly differently.
Yeah.
Whether they realize
that's perception.
It or not.
Whether they realize it or not, there is some color difference. I mean, go to eBay, look at listings, and you'll see all those cards there. And some people scan them at different resolutions, different lightings. They all look different.
Well, it's like here when I take the photos for the daily masterpieces I put on group. Depending on, I always do them in exactly the same spot. But the light in here will change how good or bad that picture looks. And some cards, I don't feel I've done a great, I've done a little bit of a disservice to, just simply because they've not, been captured.
But what's so smart of you is that you do it on a white background.
Yes.
And that's what makes them look so uniformed, is that you do have that white background there, because you have a little bit of bounce. And that's really nice, really clean.
It's
all right, next question.
It's got to be done. So
it's got to be done.
But there weren't actually that many questions here. So
no, there wasn't.
Where are we here? Matthew DeMars. Hey, Matthew. What character would you have liked to create but didn't? And this was kind of crossed over. Again, a lot of these questions do cross over. It's kind of crossed over with the characters that Simone couldn't put into the set.
Yeah,
because he wanted to do everything. He wanted to do.
If it was up to him, he would have drawn everything. It sounded like.
Yeah, I think if it was up to him, there would have been 180 different paintings. So, and he would have been pulling a Jusco, as it's known in the trade. Yeah, I don't know if it is known in trade, but it is from now.
It is now.
As in the shifts that he was doing to complete 1992. So that was. Great question, because it kind of tied in with the fact that he's just passionate about he digs his Marvel characters like
Yeah.
in a big way.
Yeah.
He loves these characters, and it's something that you touched upon earlier on, actually, and we're coming on to it in a moment. Actually, is the backgrounds. So
Oh yeah.
this is the one where Simone lit up like a pinball machine,
Oh.
completely with joy, and I think. I can't remember which question it was, but it came on to talking about
It
the
was the question
background.
I asked. It was the question I asked at the end.
So you put it on the comments. That's
Yeah,
right.
because I told you last minute.
That's right.
Because I couldn't think of a question because I was a little starstruck and I was like, man, what do I ask him?
Yeah.
What do I really want to know, and
So
what do I
you
want to?
maybe best want to describe this one because
Basically, what I said in the question was that and if you've collected MM18, Marvel Masterpiece 18, you kind of understand what I'm talking about when I say this. If you look at all the backgrounds, like we were talking about Dr. Octopus earlier, the backgrounds are very dystopian. They're very unique. They feel very much outside of the Marvel universe, but yet so ingrained in it. It feels like you're looking at a sci-fi depiction of Marvel characters.
Yes.
And that's my top three favorite parts about the set that he did, and the attention he did. Because if you look at the backgrounds, and you look at Mobius, which is the vampire character from Spider-Man, which we were talking about the Spider-Man villains, he's on a boulder, which he calls his spaceship, and it's floating off the ground. It's floating, and it's nuts. And if you look at all the backgrounds, like we just saw on the Facebook page, which I was playing around with buying, but I don't think I can afford it, is the Mystique preliminary.
So it's Morbius, isn't it? Not
Right. Morbius.
Yeah,
Starts with an R, because
character.
Mobius is the comic book artist, the brilliant European genius comic
But he
artist.
mentioned both in the same sentence.
He mentioned
which is
both.
where the confusion's coming in.
Right.
So I think Mobius is where he's drawn a lot of inspiration.
Right. He said,
he got into it.
He got into it because he got really excited because I wanted to, because there's a very different style of art from American to European, and vice versa, obviously. So Mobius, the comic book artist, brilliant for his creations of sci-fi and fantasy, and did work on Marvel pieces as well. My first time I was introduced to that artist, and such a fan of his work, it was the Silver Surfer Parable. That is a great book, great graphic novel. He did all the art for that, and Stan Lee wrote it. And Simone lit up. He was very excited to talk about that, and he was like, thank you for comparing my backgrounds to his, but it's such an honor, but I definitely don't hold a light to him, and being very humble, of course. But he was very excited to talk about that, because if you go back and look at all the Marvel Masterpiece pieces, or any piece really, we're talking about this to Dave, and Dave was telling us how he had Carnage running out of a mental asylum, and someone running away from him in the perspective, the very extreme perspective, the fisheye.
Yes.
And Simone was so excited to talk about his influence on the backgrounds, and how he wanted them to look very distinct and very different, and also wanted to create story within the frame. Yes. And that was really cool. That was a really cool moment.
It literally, do you remember, I can't remember if this is Marvel or another publisher, Elseworlds?
Yes.
So
yes.
That's the word that comes to mind when I look at the works in Marvel Masterpieces from Simone, because it's kind of, there's a world.
Yes, there's a world building he did. Yeah.
There's a world. Within that.
And characters intersect with each other in that world. And if you look through the MM18, you can see echoes of other worlds, the other cards that he kind of infiltrated across character lines. I think they're really fun. I think they're really cool. You look at anybody, like even if you look at Colossus, who I have, it seems like it's all rubble, but when you look more detail at the card, it's very specific rubble. And it's the same kind of material of rubble you'll see in the other cards. And you can just see how he's carrying that forward every time. And that's what excited me about the set. One of the major things that excited me about the set was to see that kind of storytelling again transcend across each character's kind of background, each character's personality. Like Mystique, for instance, when she's sitting on that pile of machinery that seems to be in the desert and stuff of that nature, and then you see that kind of drone in the background. That turbine that looks like a drone. if you look at how she sits on that piece of machinery, she has her hands and her fingers slightly curled around each other, and she's
Yes.
putting out her other hand. It just, for me, and I should have asked this, but I didn't want to get too specific or take time from other people's questions. But that feels like a gecko standing on a rock in a desert.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like a thing that could like a chameleon. You know, the
Yes.
transformative qualities.
Yes.
Like seeing
Yes.
her fingers do that and seeing that position gives her that personality of that chameleon surviving, and Mystique's super rough of a character and she's super greedy.
Yeah.
So it's kind of this really cool imagery that's echoing her personality. And he does that continuously throughout the cards.
What I love is Wolverine is standing in a snowy mountain backdrop, and it's from a low angle looking up at him, and behind him are these mountains like going up into the sky.
Yeah.
And his foot's is kind of slightly in the snow, and it's clearly just been put down because the snow is still kind of flying up from where he's placed his foot. And when you look at it, you kind of don't see it at first, but then you see this wisp and you think, oh, that's his breath. But look at it, it's his cigar.
Oh,
that he's got going on. Now, I didn't think they were allowed to get away with character smoking.
No, I think it's the cold. I think it's the cold.
But
I think it's the maybe. I don't know.
That's the thing. You say it, but I wouldn't be at all surprised if that was a small thing that maybe he just had to tweak.
And there's another glare, glimmer,
exactly,
there, like from Dr. Octopus.
Yeah.
And I think what's really cool too, if you look in the background of that Wolverine card, I'm looking at it backwards, but his left hand, that looks like a building that has a snow cap on it. So that little machinery that's existed in the other cards is kind of hinted at, and that might just be a mountain, but it's still, even though this is a very natural, organic space that he has Wolverine in, which juxtapose some of the other spaces that he uses, it's still the same. You know what I mean? You still see that's like the snowy, isolated part of where the character is again.
Yeah.
And the stance is such a good stance. This is one of my favorite Wolverine cards I've ever seen.
It is,
down.
exactly. And you can see why
it's a
people
great
went
piece.
nuts for it.
It's a great piece. As they should. It's a brilliant piece. And his eyes are red. It's sick. It's a sick piece.
I mean, listen, we could go into this. I mean, he did two, of course. He did the one for the canvas cards as well.
Yes.
For the gallery cards,
one too.
Where Wolverine's kind of airborne, for want of a better word. And he's clearly just like torn something up with his claws. I'm not quite sure what that is. It looks like a machine of some kind, maybe one of those drones that you were talking about earlier on.
Maybe
he's just wiped out, and he's
really cool.
I mean, it's just there's awesome motion in it as well. There's a huge amount of motion,
a lot of life
in a lot of these cards. But even the still ones, but they've got menace to it. So if you look at Loki, for example, Loki is kind of standing in a steaming swamp of some sort.
Yeah,
quite bizarre. He's standing in liquid, and he's just kind of standing there nonchalantly, but very, very evilly looking at you through kind of lidded eyes.
Yeah. Well, it also reminds me.
Come and have a go if you think
it also reminds me. Right? Yeah, and I love the machinery in the background of that and those ruins. Like that looks like a ruin with some symbols on it.
It does. It does. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, it also reminds me of Federico. Is that how you say it? Like, there's a very famous painting that just went up for auction a while ago and sold for a lot of money. It's the artist that used to do the cover of some of the creepy comic books back in the day.
Not familiar.
Yeah, I'll find the name in the picture I'm thinking of in my head. Jusco mentioned it too. It's a painting that's been circulating because his artwork has been like crazy up there for everybody, and I mean, it's rightfully so. But talking about Simone's work, you know, even looking at Misty Knight, very graphic design, Misty. You know what I mean? And she's one of the best cards in the set. Seeing her, like seeing that orange and that kind of graphic design behind her, that feels dystopian. And then you look at Black Widow and you see that dystopian work there too, and it's just very consistent. And that I was extremely impressed by how consistent the storytelling was.
Little trivia point here. Often when I post the Daily Masterpieces pictures I take of the cards on Instagram, I will tag an Instagram account belonging
Awesome.
to an actor or actress that may have played that character, either in TV or movies. And obviously, especially in the MCU side of things, they probably get thousands of pings on their phone a day if they've even left them switched on. But I tagged the actress Simone Bianchi, who played Misty Knight in the Netflix Defenders series.
Luke Cage,
And Luke Cage, of course, yes. And she saw it and she dug it. She liked it. So, and I find I just love when that kind of thing happens, because she
so
may
awesome.
not have ever seen that
The
piece of
card.
artwork before.
Yeah. How would she ever have seen it unless you had posted it?
Exactly.
Like, she would not
or
have
someone
come into
might
contact.
have asked her to sign it at a con, but
yeah, maybe something like that. But I mean, how cool is that experience happened so organically? And that was something I wanted to bring up. We're talking very freely about the interview and not giving we're giving a lot of direct quotes as much as we can from what we remember from the interview.
Yeah.
But I will say this about the interview, and it was lightning in a bottle, because it was very organic.
Yeah.
Like, the conversation, the chemistry, it was very fun. It felt very light. It felt very welcoming. It was very organic. He was saying hi to people. We were talking to him. It was only a room of maybe 14 people watching him at one point.
Yeah.
I think that was the highest it got.
And then he was having the banter with his sister.
And then he was in banting with Gloria, who was so cool, and they were really fun, and it was just it was nice. It was nice.
Hilarious. They were kind of ripping into each other a little bit in a really affectionate
brother sibling.
way.
Yeah, it was very cool.
And he was taking the Mickey. So it's actually a good point, because we've kind of said more than maybe we've said on the video on this podcast.
Yeah.
But the one thing that the last question, actually, which is the name I'm going to muff up, Rido Revelino Arifin. Sorry if I cocked that up. I'm going to call you Keith for the sake of argument. Why? hugely disrespectful. But I'm not going to take another run at your name. I'm sorry. Why didn't you paint Juggernaut in Marvel Masterpieces?
Oh yeah, that's right.
So I love Simone's answer to this was brilliant. He goes, I think he said something effective. I really wanted to, but Gambit and Surfer, he mentioned Surfer again there.
Yeah.
Who else did he mention? He said
Fantastic Four in general.
Yeah, he definitely said someone else who's a standalone.
He did say someone standalone.
Anyway,
who else is banned?
Whoever it was. Anyway, and he said, you know what? I love those guys, and I would have happily done so, but it wasn't.
Also, if you look at his website, at Simone's website, or just his history in comic books, he's done panels and sequential art. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a Juggernaut, because I know he did a Silver Surfer variant cover.
Yeah.
And that's how the first time I ever met his work.
Yeah.
I'm starting to see a pattern here, Ian. You think I read too much Surfer stuff? Maybe that's how I'm being introduced to everything.
I took a photo earlier on of a Surfer Nintendo game advert that I spotted.
Oh my God, they're so cool.
I was looking at a Daredevil comic. I was looking at Daredevil 290 randomly, because I picked some Daredevil books up today. And the cover of that, I was like, oh, that looks a bit nuts. And I had a quick click through it, and I found this Surfer Nintendo game, and I've taken the photo, so I'll send it to you afterwards.
Please do.
Thank you. You know what? Because we've talked about it, that will also go on the tasting notes.
There you go.
Under the category of look how bonkers the 90s were.
Yeah. Well, Jusco did the cover for the NES box for the Surfer.
Well, touching on the episode a few weeks back, or maybe it was last week, I can't remember, where we mentioned Julie Bell's Fantasy Football, where she'd done a subset of 6 cards of then big names in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
Did you know that Boris, good evening, sir, did the cover to the Sega Mega Drive, or Genesis as it was known in your parts?
Damn right.
It was a card box game, because they became plastic clamshells, but one particular publisher called Ballistic, I think it was, or Accolade, did cardboard box games, and the card would sit in a little frame within it. Anyway, Mike Ditko's Power Football is a Boris
no way
painting on the front of the box.
Crazy.
And you know what? It kind of clicked on me because of the way that they draw physicality and musculature and
that's great.
and the
Venue
fact
for them.
that Julie, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that she was at one point a professional bodybuilder.
That's what I heard too.
Yeah. So you know there's clearly this drawing there to the way that the muscles look and the way
they're huge
under the
fans of the
skin
human form. Yeah,
exactly, the human. Yeah, that perfect. Thank you for rescuing my.
It's so funny to see that because that makes total sense why they would get into
but
painting
it's the
athletes.
NFL.
Yeah, that's really cool.
I find that fascinating.
Huge property.
I love NFL stuff.
So cool.
While we're talking about that, there is there was a very short-lived NFL superhero book that Joe Jusko did the front cover of issue 1.
What?
I think it's called Super Pro. Let me just Google. Yeah, Super Pro. Here we go. So NFL Super Pro was a short-lived comic book series by Marvel Comics, centered on Phil Grayfield, an ex-NFL player who survives a freak accident and wears a near indestructible football uniform. You had me at hello on that one. And issue 1 has a there is a kind of a variant cover of issue 1, collector's item, first edition, as all the front covers had, and it's Joe Jusko, and it's fantastic. And it's got this guy flying through the air in an NFL uniform above the grid, up at you. That's going on the tasting notes.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic. So it's Marvel. It wasn't a card, but it's Jusko. So we're talking about it.
Well, there are some Marvel cards that had baseball people, right? I don't have the Surfer one. I have to get that still.
There was a crossover. There was a Marvel NFL kind of magazine crossover where X-Men and NFL players went together. I can't remember the name of it.
They did it with baseball too, right? I mean, that's the Surfer card I don't have, and I don't want to get.
Possibly. Anyway, so back to Simone.
Sorry,
Simone.
Go.
So we're kind of there. The one thing I will say, just to kind of wrap up talking about this, is that Simone basically said, and again, said how much he hates the witchcraft of Facebook and how much he would much rather we were all there in person. So basically said the next time he does this, he will openly invite everyone who's able to make the trip to come there, and he will show us the paintings in the studio. He will, we'll be able to talk to him, we'll be able to hang with him. And he says that because he's got an open heart. He's a kind guy. He took the time to do this.
Yeah.
He's a very passionate, hot-blooded Italian guy, and you can see that in his work and the way that he talks on the group, and his beautiful family. He referred to. You don't see them, but you can hear children in the background. And,
his niece and nephew. We've seen them in the live videos where he's done shout outs.
I don't know, but he mentioned for the first. I didn't realize he was married and he had children, so he mentioned that on the thing. Said his wife and kids, and he basically said that because it's evening where they were, because it started at 7 p.m. their time, that they were all about to have pizza, of course. But and they were all going to go off to have dinner. But he basically said, when it's done, kept apologizing for the mess, and it's like,
it doesn't matter. It's an awesome mess. Okay.
And then was going on, going to say, next time we'll do it in person. I think he said that the Lake Como convention was going to happen again.
Oh my God. Yeah, he did. It is happening again for sure.
Did Tulio and I think Mauricio.
Yeah, and Simone's not going.
He's not going to New York Comic Con.
Just so people know, in case people are going.
He said that on group, and I think at that point Matt may have rage quit.
Matt was really funny. Matt was like, "Well, I guess I'm getting a refund on my ticket." Yeah, he was joking around, obviously.
And then Simone and Matt proceeded to have a bit of a back and forth, which was
pretty funny.
So it's lovely to see, and Otis was there, and Otis got a shout out. Otis does some mad. Otis has got an Instagram feed. I'm not sure if it's a hobby or if it's career, if it's a full-time artist thing he does, but he's a toy maker.
It looks so cool, by the way.
Incredible kind of I don't know what to call them. Even they're certainly not action figures. So I apologize for saying that, but it's my way of getting to the right word.
They're mini structures, like
marionettes. No, that's not right, because they're not puppets. They're beautiful. They're stunning.
They're extremely unique. Yeah, for sure. And the craftsmanship is
very, very
outstanding.
Very like, wow. What am I
it's
seeing?
Impressive.
It's beautiful.
Yeah,
and it's expressive and it's lovely. Anyway, Otis was on there as well, and he's someone that we've come to know because he was a fan of Simone's, and he came into the group, and so I was very passionate about Simone's work in 2018. He collected, I think he was really into Black Panther, and he collected a lot of the Black Panther stuff, and it's it's fascinating, the individuals that we get in the group that we've come to meet, but kind of feels like we have, but we've come to know them, and
we have
a window onto what they dig and what they create and how they find joy in things through the things. So it was great. It was a really nice little thing. And even this morning when I was having the backwards and forwards with Gloria about the fact that I think we lost the video, and unless you can see it at your end, she was very much like what did she say to me? Sorry, my computer's frozen up now. She, bless her, she said, next time I'll make sure we don't run this risk. I apologize. I was like, hey, it's no problem. It's not
so sweet.
It's so not, it's cool. We were 100%. Going to do a podcast about the live video anyway, because we theorized that we'd have the video, and what we were going to do was almost what we've done here. We were going to play the audio of each answer and then pause it and then talk about it and then do that. So we were going to do that. So this is kind of the next best thing, and we've done it today 24 hours afterwards, so that it's kind of fresh in our heads, so that we get it out there, and and this will be the next episode released. So we'll release this on Tuesday. The one thing I will say, the final thing, someone did ask if, and I think they asked this on one of the, I don't think it was a question. If it was, I apologize. Which piece you would keep?
Yes. You remember the answer, right?
Multiple Man.
Multiple Man.
He's a character that befuddles me to this day, because he seems to pop up in a lot of card sets, and I'm not as familiar with him.
Multiple Man was really cool. So I got introduced. No, no, he's X-Men.
Oh, is he in it? Is it because he's not a he's a baddie? Yeah,
he's a baddie.
Yeah.
Well, he's like an X-Men. They've had some work on him recently, but I got introduced to Multiple Man during the X-Men animated series.
Ah, okay.
I believe so. I'm not mixing him up with Morph, who Morph was there too, which is an interesting character, not the stop motion animation.
Yeah.
Which you talked about last time, which is so crazy.
I posted it as a separate video. And
I saw some more. They're pretty great.
It's one of the most watched posts.
Very fun.
On the podcast page. We should do a podcast about plasticine characters.
We can do that. Done. But he's an X-Men character. I'm pretty sure on that one. But that's actually a really cool card that really doesn't get a lot of play either. And I see why he wants to keep it, because if you look at the painting, you get a lot more dimension there than you do on the card, because of the graphics on the card, which is not the fault of the card, it's just the card. But it's very interesting, and that's kind of cool that he would want to keep it, because it is a pretty fun character and a really cool.
It is, and I think I'm doing this from memory because I don't have the card in front of me.
I'm looking for it now.
Yeah, I was going to say we're both. The joy of Google.
Pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much. What would we have done before Google? We'd have sat here not being able to record.
Not having to use our memories.
Yeah, exactly.
What a joke.
If I remember correctly, he's wearing quite a bonkers outfit.
Well, he's not wearing a bonkers outfit. He's wearing like a white T-shirt. But see, there are two. So
sorry, I'm thinking of Joe's.
You're thinking of Joe's.
Yeah.
Joe's is wearing a pretty bonkers outfit, which is pretty fun.
Yeah.
But
a lot of Joe's cards. Bless you, Joe.
Too.
There's some of the outfits on the characters in Marvel Masterpieces 2016.
Well, he's Joe has old school references too, man. He's putting some really cool things in there. Nice Easter eggs. But Simone, I mean, the really cool thing about his multiple man. So basically, just to describe it to listeners, which actually I corrected myself. I think the graphic for the card actually was handled very well.
I've just realised how many there are. I thought there were only 4. I've only just spotted the other 4 that are in the background.
Yeah, no, it's stacking. Like, it's a really good example of good stacking. The lighting source again. This is his signature lighting.
Yeah.
We see that kind of horror movie lighting where you hold the flashlight underneath your close to your chest, so it gets the grooves in your eyes and all that kind of stuff. And I know exactly why he wants to keep the painting. At least I'm presuming I understand. If you look at each of each head, each one has a distinct lighting source.
Yes.
So each one of them is different.
Mm.
So they stacking on each other, creating a very interesting effect where you have the hands and you have that background with all the skulls that are stacking on top of each other.
Yes.
Yeah, it kind of has that kind of really cool effect there. It's fascinating. It's very pretty. It's very, very cool. Very, very good work.
When I search multiple man Bianchi on Google, the first picture that comes up is of a bicycle.
Fascinating.
Well, apparently there's a make of bicycle called a Bianchi. There you go. Anyway,
that was probably his influence.
It was. Simone, Gloria, if you're listening, I don't know if you do listen. I hope you do listen. We've certainly told you enough times that we're doing the podcast. Thank you very much for doing it, for agreeing to do it, and for sharing your time with us. Thank you to everyone who was able to jump on. For those who couldn't, I'm hoping that you're able to hear this, and it's some small kind of insight into what happened and what went on. And I'm gonna put a post up tonight and just say, look, sorry, just briefly describe what happened, and I'll throw up the picture of the screenshot with that as well. I'll put it on both groups and just say, heads up, Tuesday we'll be dropping this episode, and
I think that's the best we really covered what happened. This just happened, and I'm feeling pretty fresh here. Yeah. And if people listen to this episode and we miss something, please put it in the comments.
Absolutely.
We'd love to hear from you and love to try to get a full experience of what happened here as much as possible.
Yeah.
And I do want to say thank you to Simone and Gloria too. You guys are awesome. You've made this set so much fun, and you've really made this a special memory for all of us.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
And roll on the next set that you do.
Yeah.
Absolutely brilliant.
I'll be there.
I'm conscious that we've talked for a long time, which is great. A lot of folks seem to dig the longer episodes, so thank you for that. The one thing that I should say, it's kind of a housekeeping bit really, is that we've this, I don't know what episode number this will be, and I've stopped saying them because we've had to move the order of episodes around a little bit. So for example, the one that dropped last week was the Fleer Ultra X-Men one, but that was actually, that was episode 6. I think it was actually the 4th one we recorded. I can't remember now, but we had to move. We basically moved different episodes around. So we've referenced a few things that we've talked about. So for example, there was a reference in one of the episodes where I say, last week I meant to talk about book value, but I didn't, and then I went to talk about book value. Well, the episode that I'm referencing, we might have recorded the week before, but we haven't actually released it yet, which is an episode on investments and values, which we wanted to talk about on the first 2 episodes. We have actually recorded it. We haven't dropped it yet. So that's the first thing. So if there's references in here, then just bear with us. We've got a few.
They are coming.
We had to move things around. Yeah, we had to move things around because of a few things. We have done another artist interview, and that will be coming out as soon as we can edit it together. We had some audio challenges, I think it's fair to say, with it. So Norrin, bless you, you've got your work cut out for you there. So we'll see if we can it was great and it was really good. But
no, he was awesome. Like, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
I'll just have to try to get a clean cut of it.
Yeah, we're not going to drop who it is just yet because
no,
we might have to do a redo or something like that. So
we'll see how good we'll see how good it comes out.
Yeah, so we'll hopefully do that. We have some artists that who've said they'll come on, and we haven't been able to fully get back to everyone yet and schedule it in. Partly because we kind of, as the artists do, I think, we do it around our daily lives, and we've got short windows where we can connect because of time zones and things like that. And partly because it's San Diego Comic-Con coming on, so I know at least one of the artists, possibly two of the guys that we've got kind of in the pipe to come on the podcast and talk about their work, is in full commission mode for San Diego Comic-Con, which as we record is next weekend. So those will come. The final thing I wanted to say was, when we record these, we don't often know who we're going to use for the intro. So the artists that have very kindly taken time out to just take their mobile device, because that's smartphones is kind of the easiest way to do it, and on an iPhone record a voice memo, or on an Android, depending on what model it is, record like a voice text, if you like, or a voice recording, and send it via email to introduce the episodes for us. So those who've done that, thank you very much. We've got more coming up, but because we don't often know which one we're going to put at the beginning of the episode, I haven't been giving them shout outs on the episode, because when we record the episode, I don't know what's going to be at the start. Does that make sense?
100%. I mean, I mean, what can you do?
So exactly. But so on that note, I've got 2 thank yous to do, and then I'm going to talk about the guy who's going to be at the front of this episode. So the thank yous I've got to do that I didn't do on air were to, obviously Dave, Julie, Boris, thank you.
Thank you.
Stunning, wonderful. Michael Munshaw, who was on the Clear Ultra X-Men intro. Michael, thank you for that. That was remarkable. I don't think I've been described as a hip dude. Quite a while, actually. But Michael Munshaw is, he's been on, so I can't remember which Marvel sets off the top of my head. I know he did some Marvel Masterpieces sketch cards.
He's done a lot.
He's really good stuff.
Very proactive. Good stuff.
The reason I'm going back to this is because I've kind of started saying to people, look, we'll make sure we give you a shout out on the episode and say thank you and tell people where to go to find out a bit more about you. And obviously, if you come on the podcast for an interview, then we can do more, and you can talk about your work. So he's on his Instagram and his website are the same. So it's Art of M2. So ARTOF for Michael Munshaw, and then the number 2. I imagine it's because it's MM. Michael Munshaw. So he's at Art of M2 on Instagram, and his website is artofm2.com. So go and check his stuff out. Also, Ron Leary Jr.
Awesome.
Thank you, Ron. Ron actually, bless you, Ron. He actually sent us a little video because I think it was easier than him doing
so cool.
it. So we just lifted the audio off that. But Ron's work, I love Ron's work actually.
Me too.
I'm pretty sure he's done some, if I remember correctly, apologies, there's so many great artists that we're seeing stuff from at the moment in MCCW and on Instagram that I have a hard time remembering off the top of my head who's on what sets. But Ron is on Instagram at RL2VAS, RL2VAS. You can find his stuff there. He's also got a Facebook page, so check him out. And this episode, we have one in the bag from Ray Largo. So I think that would be an appropriate one to put at the front of this episode. I told Gloria that we were going to do this episode, and we put Ray at the beginning of it because I someone of Ray's standing and talent would be an ideal accompaniment to the main course that is Simone Bianchi's work. So thank you, Ray, for doing that.
Thank you.
I know Ray has got I haven't done any prep for this, so apologies, Ray. I'll drop it into next week's episode. But Ray, I think the last time I spoke to Ray, I think I said, "Oh yeah, we'll make sure you mention what you've got coming up in terms of your work and stuff." when you've got shows and stuff like that. And of course, I haven't got it to hand, so apologies. We'll drop that in the tasting notes and into next week's episode on audio as well. So thank you to those people. The last thing I will say, I promise you it'll be the last thing I will say, and then you can all get back to your daily lives, and Norrin can go and be with his family, and I can go down to start drinking. Because this is what it's driven me to. No, that's not true. The last thing I will say is you guys listening to this, you collectors, you artists, you creators, any of you can leave us a voicemail on our kind of home distribution of anchor.fm/MCCP. You can go on there and you can leave a voicemail for us. So, you don't, you can even, if you want to, say, please don't play this on the episode, and we'll just, reference that we've had it and, read it out. But we'd love to do that. We do this for you, and I know not everyone digs the sound of their own voice. But if you want to say anything, if you want to leave feedback, if you want to ask a question, even if you just want to tell us a little story, just anything that you want to say, just go onto that and leave us a little voicemail, and it literally works like a voicemail, and we can insert it into episodes.
That would be awesome.
I mean, that'd be really cool.
Really, really cool.
I think that'd be really cool. And now I've mentioned it before, and at this point, I'm probably going to go on there and find that we've got like 20 messages. But I'm absolutely certain that it gives you a little alert when you're supposed to have, when you've got a message. So we haven't had any yet, unfortunately, but some great feedback, and we'll do another letter column on the next episode.
Perfect.
We also need suggestions for names for that letter column.
Oh yeah.
I think I did say something on the last time we did it, what it could be called, but I can't remember now. Anyway, thanks for listening, folks. Until next time, I've been Ian Taylor.
I am Norrin Rad.
And enjoy collecting.
Enjoy collecting, everybody.
Thanks for listening to the Marvel Card Collectors podcast. You can subscribe via our home on anchor.fm/MCCP. Leave us a message via that link with questions, comments, or just to say hi, and we may even play on the show. We'll also be on iTunes and most other main podcast platforms soon. On Facebook, you can find Marvel Card Collectors Worldwide by searching MCCW, and Marvel Masterpieces Collectors by searching MMC. On Instagram, find us at MMCollectors and at SketchCardHive. The great music we use is called Rocket Power by Kevin MacLeod. Thanks to the collectors, artists, and creators who support the Marvel Cards Fan Collective. We'll see you next time, and remember, it's a small hobby, but a fun one. Make mine Marvel, and enjoy collecting. So here's another bit of rhyming slam for you. I'm going to go and have a David Gower.
A David Gower? No idea.
Shower. And you know why?
Okay, I'm writing a note.
You know why?
No, tell me.
Because I pen.
Because you pen.
Yeah, pen and ink. Stink.
All right, I'm horrible at rhyming. But I'm going to get this
the bit
down. I'm so excited
that you put after the end credits.
I'm never gonna. Yeah,
right. This is the bit that goes after the end credits.
Perfect. At least we got that recorded.